The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Faster, my good afternoon. Welcome to Mannin Line on Manx Radio. The Chief Minister's on Mannin Line between now and 1, so if you want to get in touch with Alfred, Cannan, MHK, call 66 13 68. Text 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. You can WhatsApp on 166 177 as well. Now we're live on Facebook and YouTube. So between now and 1, the boss is here, the Chief Minister of the Isle of Man. So, Faster Mike, good afternoon, Chief Minister.
Good afternoon, Andy.
And before we go any further, did you get over what you had at Christmas?
I did, thank you very much.
There was a lot going around, wasn't there?
There was, and apologies that I didn't make my slot with you before just before Christmas. But yes, I'm fully fit and functioning.
Okay, so what's the top of Alfred Cannan's priorities at the moment for government?
Well, where to start, Andy? I mean, this new world order that we are facing and the challenges externally that impact on the Isle of Man. But I think we set out 4 key areas for this year for the government, economic growth and the economy being at the top of that. But the health and social care issue, the funding issue, setting out a clear plan for Manx Care and the DHSC was there. Financial discipline across government was featuring highly. We've got very strict budgetary controls in place at the moment, and we need to maintain our financial discipline. And security and immigration were high on the list as well in terms of both our economic security, but also our physical security as well.
Much has been made about the situation with Manx Care and DHSC. Have you got a way forward in your mind? Do you know which way it's got to go?
We are actually.
I mean, apart from saving a lot of money,
we are taking this forward now, Andy. That's why we have put the operating plan, the mandate and the operating plan together, right in front of Tynwald for debate, and only last month brought forward the associated budget with that as well, so members and the public get a full view of what Manx Care is setting out to do. And that needed to be done because I think previous years what we've had is a mandate come through in March, and I think last year the operating plan came through in June. How can anybody conduct the right financial discipline and right delivery of services when everything is so disjointed? So we are making a very positive step forward. It is difficult. There is a transition going on. This mandate that we have delivered alongside the operating plan for Manx Care is about changing services and taking services back out into the community. It is also about delivering healthcare, knowing what we are getting in terms of healthcare delivery for the money that we are providing the healthcare service, and for various reasons that needed to be realigned, and we really needed to bring some discipline to the way that healthcare was being delivered on the island for very good reasons when it comes to our long-term fiscal positioning and the competitiveness of our economy.
I mean, obviously, looking back isn't helpful in many things. We have to move forward, but how did it get like that? How did it get disjointed? I mean, surely the arrangement between DHSC and Manx Care was clear. Everybody knew what they had to do. How come it kind of just lost its way?
Well, I think we've been very much sort of aligned with the UK NHS. There's no getting away from that fact, and these problems are not unique to the Isle of Man, and there are many factors involved with that. Everything from the scope of health services, and I think that's expanded out. Society's needs has developed over time. Demographics have changed, but there has also, I think, fundamentally perhaps been a loss of discipline within the health services itself around the funding that they are getting and the services that they're delivering. And look, I think care professionals want to care and they want to deliver services, and I think there's a natural need to try and be all things to all people, and I don't blame people for that, and who wouldn't want to be providing absolutely everything. But we have got an economy to run. We have only finite budgets to deliver. We've given this government has invested heavily into healthcare services. I mean, we've obviously raised taxes to get them an extra £20 million, but their budget has gone up, I think, by £100 million over sort of 4 or 5 years. We know there's 400 and something more staff working in healthcare now. So there's this need to sort of reinstill the discipline, challenge the healthcare organisation itself to start rethinking about the way that it is delivering its services to the changing needs in society has been absolutely vital. And of course, the absolute understanding that healthcare and delivery of healthcare is very much the central platform in terms of government spending and policies, and looking after everybody is hugely important. But we've also got an economy, and we also need to keep government finances stable. So that broader aspect needs to be factored into and present in people's thinking in the healthcare service, as well as outside.
OK, let's get to the lines. David's first with us today. Hi, David. You're live with the Chief Minister.
Hi, Andy and Mr. Chief Minister. Can I ask you a couple of questions? They're only small, really. What is Mr. Hooper doing at the present time? Does he have an ulterior motive regarding the local government unit? And then the other thing is, too, the hospital, which is frightening people about some of his statements. Can I give you the other one as well?
Yeah, by all means.
How can we put things together regarding the Newsom site down on the quay for redevelopment and their own site at the bottom of Summer Hill, which government bought years ago, which has got scaffolding now for a year on there? What are we going to do as a government? And I'll leave it at that, OK?
OK, thanks.
Right. Well, I don't want to get too much into individuals. Let me just talk about the
Local government
amendment bill and Laurie Hooper's clause that he brought forward. Look, that was supported. Effectively, it meant that it gave government the powers to instruct local authorities. But there was a whole process in front of that before government got to a position, or the Department of Infrastructure got to a position to be able to instruct a local authority to do things, and that included consultation, and that includes a Tynwald vote as well. So I think it has been blown a little bit out of proportion. I think actually when you look at it, it's a sensible measure for a government to be able to do that on a small island to ensure proper equity. If a local authority, for example, was choosing to do something that was perhaps damaging to other people in the area, or was having broader impacts that resulted in unfairness.
Could you give a non-specific example of that?
Well, look, I mean, we've got the issue at the moment going on with the civic amenity site in the north, for example, where there has been, one local authority has decided to take a different route. Fine, but that is having broader impacts, and therefore government does have to consider whether those impacts are resulting in unfairness and whether it is in the greater interest to perhaps change things. Now, I'm not suggesting that this clause has been brought about just to deal with one single issue, but it is a clause that is potentially needed, and I think it was right to get its support, but I don't want to blow it out of all proportion. The issue around some of the language that's been used, decimation of the health service, largest assault in the NHS, utter nonsense. Okay, anybody who reads those documents will see, and we put the mandate and the operating plan together, will see a government and a health service trying to work together to ensure that we all understand how health is going to be delivered, what the strategy is, and how that is going to be delivered for the funding available. And, this sort of hype that's being put out there, in my view, just for political purposes, is concerning. But I can assure everybody that we are taking a mature approach to quite difficult circumstances. And actually, there's some really hugely positive aspects about the operating plan, particularly that's being brought forward. I was particularly pleased to see the matron back really as a key influencer and manager within the hospitals. The focus on the clinicians really leading the development of services, and the focus that's been put on in terms of taking healthcare back into the community, and the ambition to have 4 functioning, well-oiled regional centres for healthcare across the island. So look, there's a lot of ambition in there. There is, of course, a readjustment of service levels in some areas, but the healthcare professionals are doing that in line with standards, and having to make, of course, the decisions about ensuring that we get the priority treatments sorted out, and also dealing with areas of treatment where there have been inefficient practices. So there is still a lot to do. I'm not saying this is easy work, because it is not easy work, but I hope everyone will understand that we have to get ourselves into a position where, if we can get financial control and progress in terms of efficiencies within our health service, if we still get to a position where we think actually the health service needs more money because it is not delivering the needs of the community, then we need to have that conversation about how that then, is paid for moving on. And very quickly on nuisance, I drove past nuisance on the way here. By the way, Andy, if you look around Douglas at the moment, there's 2 major developments going on. One down by Lake Road in Tesco's, one down at Villiers Square. We're going to see some significant buildings going up there, and that's down to the Island Infrastructure Scheme and the actions this government's taken to start developing our brownfield sites. I hope that in the next 3 to 6 months we'll see progress on another central site in Douglas. So when we come to the end of this administration, if these buildings aren't built by then, they will certainly be well on the way up. And I think the construction industry can look forward to a very bright future in the centre of Douglas. We're building more houses, and nuisance on a quay remains a huge frustration. I'm desperately disappointed, along with many, many other people, that we are unable to allow this developer, Kel Properties, to get on and develop nuisance. There are negotiations ongoing between Environment, Food and Agriculture, effectively the department that looks after the planning system, and the developers team. I hope they can come to a solution. Something has to happen down there, because actually not only is it openly a blight and eyesore, but clearly the buildings are just continuing to deteriorate. And if you come from the other side of the quay and look in fact, if you come up from up the hill towards Manx Radio and look across, you can see how much damage is being done there, and okay. I hope we can reach a solution.
And a quick word, Trevor, on the same subject. Trevor dropped a note in. The subject of Manx Development Corporation. Are you happy with the progress made?
In some respects, I think the Manx Development Corporation could do more, and I think we are working within government to try and get more central understanding of departments, land and property, and how we can more effectively release areas of land and property that are not being utilised. But government's also got this, or departments have this need to plan strategically as well into the future, and there has been a reluctance to release land. But look, we're moving forward to try and bring progress. That's part of our efficiencies program, is to look at our properties, how we're managing those, and how we can better apply strategic planning to release some of these sites that are potentially holding the island back and holding development opportunities back. OK.
Hello, Howard. You're live with the Chief Minister.
Hello, Andy. Good afternoon, Mr. Cannan.
Hi, Howard.
Minister, It's just a curiosity. With the problems they've had down in Douglas Harbour of recent with the new vessel grounding, and the almost facetious headline that came the other day from the DOI that we've known about the problems down there since 24. So if that was the case, and that is an island lifeline and a vital lifeline, that something hadn't been done about it. They're now having a knee-jerk reaction and talking about dredging. So this is a problem that's not just happened overnight. So if there had been damage done to the ship, who would have been responsible? The taxpayers of the island or the steam packet? Plus the delays that have been occurring, not just now, this has been happening here and in Peel ports, where the ship is delayed because of tidal aspects. We say, well, she's a bigger ship, yes, but they're not loading it fully at times because they can't. And this is the problem in Douglas Harbour. This is more our problem. Peel Harbour have to get their own act together. But in Douglas Harbour, that ship was built for the harbour, and the DOI, in their wisdom, are not looking after the facilities as they should. So, strange enough, I'm looking at a photograph this morning of your late dad when he was on the board at the airport. And the DOI are creating very similar problems at the airport. And I'd dearly love to know what your father would think of all this, because the airport at one time was one of the busiest in Britain, and Douglas was an extremely busy harbour.
Okay.
We've got one ship that comes in and out now, and people just don't rely on it anymore. It's a sad state of affairs.
Okay, Chief Minister.
Well, it's not acceptable to have a grounding in Douglas Harbour. To be fair to the Minister, she's only been in post a few weeks. I know she's as concerned about this as the Council of Ministers were when this emerged. I spoke to her yesterday. I know that the harbour will be dredged in the next 3 weeks, and I know that she is just investigating at the moment how and why the dredging has not taken place sooner, and what the forward schedule is for the harbour to be dredged, because we can't have groundings taking place. I'm kind of also a little bit surprised as to how the steam packets, I'm not blaming the steam packet per se, but how they were not also aware that the levels were sinking so low, and was this just a one-off incident in terms of the tide aspects, or had they been aware and had they informed the department? I know the Minister's looking into all these issues, Howard. I agree with you. We have a responsibility, absolutely, to keep the infrastructure working on the island, and these are maintenance tasks that need to be done and need to be scheduled, and I'm sure the Minister will be providing everybody with an update in terms of that very soon.
Okay, thanks, Howard.
Just before you go away,
Okay.
please, as I mentioned a minute ago about Chief Minister's late father on the board at the airport, and that word board, we have one minister that's supposed to be looking after. We've had several ministers on the DOI, which is a huge envelope, but it's the case of the tail is wagging the dog. The ministers are unfortunately having to relate to the public what is coming out of the civil service. And the civil service, if they want to make it sound as though it's all happening nicely, it will do. And then something like this happens, and the minister, no matter who it is, they do not have control of what is coming out of the civil service.
Okay, all right, Howard, I appreciate that. You said in the past, Chief Minister, you thought the DOI was a big unwieldy object. So
there has been some progress, or at least attempts at progress, in terms of certainly the airport. Howard, there was a shadow board put in place with the intention of converting that into a full board. Government was assessing how that would actually be structured, and I know that the new minister has gone in again with the brief to evaluate whether or not there can be clearer lines of communication, control and management put in place in order that the reporting and the understanding of what is going on in quite a diverse department, from buses to trams, trains,
housing,
seawall, infrastructure, housing, is properly overseen, and that we get some clarity and responsibility and accountability, for all these different areas. But by the same token, there are complexities that the department has to do in terms of prioritisation. Lots of infrastructure. They've had to deal with significant damage this year in terms of storm damage as well. So it is a busy department. But absolutely, Howard, I agree that if you are going to effectively manage this, then you need to have some proper control over these different separate entities and areas within the department.
Okay, Howard, I appreciate that. Thanks for calling today. Let's get to the answer phone now, and a message on the phone.
Hi, Andy. A message quickly for the Chief Minister. Aside from the health service, but related to the funding, can you confirm at what age public sector workers can retire, given that the retirement age for private sector workers is now 67? Thank you. Bye.
So I think the ages generally for the civil service has moved under the government unified scheme to 60 years old, but there are a number of different elements of the schemes that make up the public sector pension authority's work, and the range of retirement ages goes from, I think, 55 to 75, but I think I'm safe in saying that the standard at the moment is 60, with some exceptions for teachers, police and one or two other areas.
OK, we're live with the Chief Minister through till 1 on Mannin Line today. If you want to, you can get in touch. Text, email, call, WhatsApp.
Take control of buying tyres and arranging vehicle servicing when you visit tyres.im, where you can check out the wide price range, order your tyres online and book into Quayside Tyres for a fixed price or full warranty service. It's easy to book your slot at a time to suit from the comfort of your laptop or phone. And you can even spread the cost over 4 months interest-free. Find a wide range of services and book online now at tyres.im.
South Key Douglas, don't delay, have safer tyres today. Quayside.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows letting rain,
Keep those cold breezes out
and make it look like new again. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
I used to make waves. Now I ride them.
I used to ask why. Now, why not?
Well, I used to set goals. Now I'm set for life.
With no monthly fee, dedicated support and plenty of global perks. Elevate your everyday with HSBC Premier. HSBC, opening up a world of opportunity. See website for details. T's and C's apply. HSBC Bank plc in the Isle of Man is a participant in the Isle of Man Depositors Compensation Scheme, as set out in the Depositors Compensation Scheme Regulations 2010.
Here at Manx Radio, we've loved seeing all your photos from World Book Day, and there's still time for you to enter and win our World Book Day competition. All you need to do is share the photo you took of you in your favourite book character costume to the pinned post at the top of the Manx Radio Facebook page. Get posting and you could be one of 2 lucky winners to win a £25 book voucher. You have until 8 o'clock this evening to share your photo, and then make sure you join us on Monday morning at 8:30 to find out if you're another winner here on Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Live with Chief Minister Alfred Cannan, MHK, and lots of questions, in fact some very specific questions about Manx Care. We've talked about Manx Care funding in principle in the past, and we'll possibly talk more about that if we have time today. I want to go to... Julian's on now. Hi, Julian. You're live with the Chief Minister.
Hi, Andy, and good afternoon, Chief Minister.
Good afternoon, Julian.
Hiya. With the 20 mile per hour speed limits being rolled out across the towns and villages of the island with no public consultation or detail in the accident data to justify this, and then you've got the Safe Access Zone and Protected Spaces Bill, which seeks to, again, limit us, but in the terms of freedom of speech and expression. Why are public consultations now either non-existent or too late, especially considering the Access Zone Bill has already had its second reading with agreement in principle? Now we've finally got the consultation. And why is it that so many of these actions being taken to limit the public instead of concentrating on urgent problems like the healthcare, the roads, the airport and sea travel and other things too?
Julian, so let me just deal with those two issues there. First of all, the Safe Access Zone is nothing to do with the government per se. That is a private member's bill. It's yet to be voted through the House of Keys, and that's purely down to private members. It is not government policy, and the government, this is a free vote for political members at the moment, and would only impact on the government were we to determine that for whatever reason we needed to have a block vote. But it is a private member's bill, so I'm just going to park that and move that away because it is not government policy. The public consultations and the 20 mile an hour zones. So my understanding was that the Department was going to run some consultation with various regions regarding this. I know they've published maps as to where these 20 mile an hour zones would apply. And of course, Tynwald has previously concurred that in residential areas, 20 miles an hour, 20 miles per hour is an aim that is an acceptable aim and ambition. So, and when you say that sort of generally public consultations, I mean, I had a question on consultations the other day. We try to engage, government is required to engage, of course, with the public in many areas, and particularly when it comes to legislation or certain legislation. You telling me you think that actually the consultations have not either been made public enough in terms of their availability, or you think they're not giving you enough time to react?
I think also it's important to know, for example, with a consultation, perhaps people might be asking, is this accident data, I mean, the 63 people that have been involved in these accidents, was this in a 30 speed limit, or was it in a 50, or was it in a no speed limit? In which case, if you start making blanket decisions on reducing 30 miles per hour, is it relevant? I mean, that information doesn't seem to be widely available. And also, when you do look at government data, there's a suspicious spike in June, which of course coincides with a TT and a huge increase in the population of the island, which isn't really relevant to does the Isle of Man need to reduce from 30 to 20?
So what do you think's behind it, Julian?
I don't know. I mean, we've also got the hate speech bills going through at the moment, another sort of, I suppose, attempt to limit us. And if you talk about public consultations, from memory, the assisted dying bill, that consultation was narrowly a majority that didn't want it, and yet it's still going through. So I'm just at a bit of a loss as to why the consultations are either not around, they're too late to really matter, or you have it and it doesn't matter anyway.
Well, I mean, two out of those three examples have been private members' bills, Julian. That responsibility has been with the private members, and of course, then that responsibility for assessing that data lies with the House of Keys. So I hope you'll understand if I just don't get drawn into private members' work and the way that it is conducted, because, you know, I think I need to represent the government today, Andy, and talk about. But
just
about
for the record,
issues.
could you just give us a pen portrait of a private member's bill versus a government bill?
Yes. So, you know, if a private member wishes to move something, Alex Allenson determined that he wanted to come in and bring forward the assisted dying bill. He had to seek permission from the House of Keys to bring that forward. It is up to the private member then to go ahead and follow the procedures in terms of drafting that bill, the consultation that they undertake around that bill, and of course then bringing it back to the House of Keys for second reading, and then for clauses, and then for third reading. And it is then, a matter for the individual politicians. The government actually rarely intervenes on private members' bills, if ever, actually. I'm not sure. I've got an example to say when the government intervened. The private member has brought it forward, and then it is purely in their hands. And I will vote, and ministers will vote as private members of their own volition in accordance with their own thoughts.
And that's one of the privileges of being an MHK, that you can bring forward private members' bills.
That's correct. And, as I said, normally they will be allowed to proceed without any government interference. I think actually there have been a couple of times when the government has decided that the members' bill would interfere with the programme for government that's been set out, and council have decided to vote against having that bill taken forward, but that's sometime in the distant past. Most of the recent private members' bills have been allowed to proceed unhindered from government, and ministers have voted as private individuals.
Okay, thanks, Julian.
Okay, thank you. Cheers.
Okay, Jane dropped a note in just to say, could you ask Mr. Cannan, when are they going to complete the tram rails to the sea terminal? There may be money available when of course, you're now finding money to install 20 mile per hour speed limits. So the tram tracks are very dear to many people's hearts, Chief Minister.
So I'm not aware that there's a programme of work scheduled in the immediate future for that to happen. The cost of the 20 mile an hour speed limits, I am informed, has been low. I don't have the exact figure for that. This is in terms of the DOI's plans. This has been a very recent announcement in terms of the extent of their application of this 20 mile an hour zone for residential areas. So there are no plans, as far as I know, for any rails to be extended down to the sea terminal in the immediate future.
Ian dropped a note in just to say, is Mr. Cannan happy that Conister are now offering mortgages? There's a Manx lender for mortgages on the Isle of Man.
Absolutely, of course. I think it's great news. It's great news for Conister, and I think great news for the community that we will have additional support from what has been very much a local success story, I think, in terms of Conister's presence on the island.
Okay, and one thing I just want to highlight as well, there was some good news as far as the jobs numbers were concerned recently. What's the unemployment rate is way down, isn't it?
Well, it has been for some time, Andy, but there's 1,300 more people in jobs than there were at the beginning of this administration. And actually the numbers of people coming to the island, I think from the data that I have seen, continues to push upward. I think until you actually get to the census, it's always hard to predict with absolute accuracy. But from everything I've seen, we are back to the numbers on the island that we saw in 2011 after many years of decline. If you remember that period between 2011 to 2016, when I first came into politics, we were losing people. In fact, the census in 2015-16 showed that 500-600 people had left the island. There'd been a net decrease, and of course the concern at that time was the decline in the island, the potential decline in terms of services, of income, and of course we've now seen a steady graph curve back upwards in terms of people coming to the island. It's good news that we've got 1,300 more people in work, because there have been a number of reasons why we needed to get people back into jobs and fill those vacancies that were existing in many different areas across our economy.
So where does government get sort of ongoing stats as regard the population? Is it GP registries? Is it NI registrations?
Well, I think most of the data will come. A lot of the data will come off the come from the Treasury.
Okay, live with Alfred Cannan through till 1 o'clock today. Text team, I've got lots and lots of messages to get through.
back pain, neck pain, headaches, joint pain. At Align for Life Spine and Posture Clinic, we've been helping Manx residents for 15 years with our holistic, evidence-based care and therapies. Plus, we're now open Saturdays to make it even easier to see us. Visit our brand new website at alignforlife.com or find us on Facebook for opening hours and more information. Align for Life, 15 years serving the community of the Isle of Man.
As a long-established firm, Man Benham offer a comprehensive range of legal services assisting individuals and businesses, from sole traders to the island's largest employers. Man Benham have built up a reputation for giving a fast, efficient, cost-effective service with a personal edge. From buying and selling property to drawing up leases, employment matters, contracts and more. Call Man Benham for your free consultation on 639 350.
Man Benham, here for you.
Manx Radio is the #1 choice of listeners aged over 35 on the Isle of Man. We lead the way in connecting brands with Manx Radio's engaged and loyal audience. And our breakfast show attracts 71% more listeners than any other station. So if you want to boost your brand with tailored advertising that really works, then call 682 620 or email sales@manxradio.com. Help your business reach new heights today with Manx Radio.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
And the Chief Minister, Alfred Cannan, MHK, is on through till 1, and so is Eddie. Hi, Eddie.
Hiya, you're right.
Live with the Chief Minister.
Good. I've got a couple of questions. First of all, I just want to comment on some of the Chief Minister's opening statements. One of them, which was more or less the government is dedicated to saving money. And the best way of saving money, in my opinion, is not to waste it and stop borrowing, because that only affects other things like pensions and so forth. But to get to my first question, I think it would be about 20 years ago, approximately. I was on the Mannin Line. I can't remember who was the host then, but I actually brought up the subject of if the government would give me a 10-acre site and put a building on it, we could recycle every single item that we've got on the Isle of Man. I've seen it work in Trafford in Britain, and we wouldn't have this problem now where I live in Ronagh. I've retrieved numerous items from the ditches there. You can get that verified by Phil Gorn if you want. Fridges, microwaves, you name it. So what do you think of that idea?
Is this recently, Eddie?
Oh, yeah. Non-stop all the time, honestly. But recently, Phil Gorn will verify you, a fridge and a microwave dumped in the ditch just outside my house.
Okay.
Because there's no street lights up here, so it's easy.
Okay, let's talk recycling, Chief Minister.
Well, Eddie, what I would say is that if you've got an idea that you think would enhance the community facilities in terms of recycling or disposing of these goods, then please, if you could set that out, and if you send that to me, I will try and distribute it to the right people so that can be assessed. But look, fly tipping is a menace. It's blight. I think it's hugely irresponsible.
Happens in the north as well, doesn't it?
Well, I think, look, the civic community side in the north, and I've been to a few civic community sites. I can't pretend to have been to the south, but I've certainly been to east, west and north, and all of them overall give me a very good impression of being well-run facilities that are invaluable in terms of the provision of services to the local community. Certainly in the north, where I see it most, it's well used. It's a lot of discipline applied there. I can see a very effective methodologies being applied in terms of how they are recycling their goods. And fly tipping, I appreciate there's some cost to some of these goods, but fly tipping effectively, if we can find people fly tipping, they will be prosecuted, and that is effectively the bottom line.
Do you guarantee that? Because not many people get done for fly tipping.
Well, no. I mean, in terms of police resources, there's a lot of issues for them to look for. But if somebody is found fly tipping, the powers exist for them to be prosecuted, and I very much hope they will.
Okay, just one question then regarding that: the introduction of charges at amenity sites, is that a revenue generation scheme?
I mean, well, the revenue's got to come from somewhere. I mean, as you know, the amenity sites are paid through the rates, and I guess the charging of those goods will be have been applied in order to keep the facility working to its budgets.
Any thought of just putting the rates up and making it free?
It's not a decision per se that I've been involved with. It's very much the local authorities' remit, and the boards that are looking after these amenity sites, I know, are working incredibly hard to get bang for their buck. There is substantial cost attached to these white goods, effectively, and other similar items. They've got to be disposed of carefully. There's obviously higher costs associated with that. Is it fair just to spread that cost to all ratepayers, or should there be an element of individual responsibility in terms of the disposal of those goods? And I, at the moment, concur there has to be an element, or should be an element, of individual responsibility. Look, Andy, if we could make everything free, then that would be good news. But clearly that is an impact on people's pockets, and we need to do things fairly.
There's no such thing as a free lunch, so nothing's free in the end. Somebody's got to pay for it somewhere, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, Eddie, what else was there?
What it was, just to keep on that one, actually, I can't remember whether it was Donald Gellin or whether it was Tony Brown or what, but they did actually consider it, and at the time, it like you said, it needs a little bit of money just to get it going, but once it's going, it would pay for itself. I've seen it work in Stratford, like I said.
Okay.
Anyway,
well, you've had the invitation from the Chief Minister.
I'm all ears, exactly. Eddie. If you think you've got a way to deal with that's benefiting everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. My second point is just recently, I don't think I've had a single person wanting the net zero and the wind turbines. I'm involved with the wind turbines. I know I live in the area and all the rest of it, but we'll all be NIMBYs eventually if it goes ahead. I have seen so much over the last 2.5 years. I've got 32 reasons why it should not go ahead. It's to be printed in the future. We're waiting for the planning board, of course, to throw it out as well. And just recently, we've had everything seems to be going wrong lately. We've had the Kroger incident, and I did ask for a bit of an inquiry into that because somebody is fibbing somewhere, and the public out here keep asking me, who is it that's lying?
Okay, all right. Well, then first things first. Let's we're getting bogged down there. Let's just go back to net zero, Chief Minister. If anybody can read what it is, go to netzero.im. There's the government's net zero policy. This is public policy. It's government. It's the government will. Where do you stand on the net zero policy?
Well, there's a statutory requirement for government to achieve net zero by 2030. But there are a number of challenges associated with that at the moment, and we can all recognise those challenges being played out daily, both sort of nationally across the water and more further afield, and the challenges that exist. Look, the core of this is about energy and the provision of energy and how that is brought forward into the future. I've always taken a very pragmatic approach, and I think we should be pragmatic about how we go about this and ensure that we are making decisions that are going to benefit the community, are going to be cost effective, and are going to make a definitive contribution to our security in the future. And that's why I think when you are looking at the projects that are being brought forward, you have to take a cautious approach, but you have to take a sensible approach. I am well aware that the cost of this, in terms of how people are paying for energy through renewable sources, particularly wind in the UK, has grown and grown and grown. And I think last year the net cost in terms of keeping turbines switched off effectively was something like £1 billion. And I know that this year as well, that cost is already mounting. I think the island needs to be pragmatic about it. I think there is clear value in what is currently proposed in terms of the propositions, both onshore and offshore. We need to see that value clearly as time progresses in terms of the cost, generation costs, and how that cost will then translate into the price of energy, electricity, when it is being delivered. And of course, within that, we also have to make sure that the positioning of any turbines that are brought on to the island is correct, and that will actually be, of course, a full and independent planning process. And so, Eddie, you will obviously have your opportunity, should things progress to that stage, to be able to properly represent those 32 points that you have.
Okay, that leads me on to Stephen, and a message also from Simon, who both said, does the government know how much Ørsted will pay for the offshore wind farm? I'm not asking you to say the exact price, but does the government know? Have you been in negotiations with Ørsted?
Yeah, in terms, you mean the government, the revenue to government from the Ørsted?
Yes, exactly. How much the Isle of Man will get?
Well, that is still at the moment unclear. And I'll be honest, part of that calculation really is then therefore set at Ørsted getting the relevant permissions, but also understanding how the interaction is going to work with the United Kingdom. And I think last time I was here on the programme, Andy, we were talking about the contracts for difference, the CFD rounds, and Ørsted have got to be able to supply that electricity competitively. Those discussions are ongoing. So the exact amount that will come to the Treasury, if this all comes to fruition, is at the moment uncertain.
And is there any sort of political uncertainty regarding the fact that they may have to negotiate with the UK government for CFDs to land the electricity there, but the wind farm is going to be in Manx waters?
Yeah, so we are having those discussions at the moment. I've had those at political levels. When I met actually the Prime Minister at the British-Irish Council in December, this was one of the discussion points that was brought forward. There is an opportunity, if the UK were going to meet all their targets, for Ørsted to contribute over 1% of that target through the Mannin proposition, and therefore there is some benefit to that renewable energy being put onto the UK grid. But there are complications, in terms of how that electricity is landed, what that means, who underwrites it in terms of that strike pricing. So those negotiations need to come to some sort of conclusion. My ambition is that those will be concluded within this next six to 10 months, so that we have some clarity around
by the end of the year.
About the viability of the commercial proposition. I think both Ørsted will want to be seeing that, and the island wants to see and understand that as well, because absolutely vital, of course, going to the original question, that we understand what ultimately the island will benefit in terms of the financial revenue that would come from this project coming to fruition.
Okay, Cara said, this is going to be the last question, by the way. Cara dropped a note in just to say, is the Chief Minister still wedded to the idea of 15,000 more people on the Isle of Man?
I think that was really all about 5,000 new jobs. And I keep going back to this, the 5,000 new jobs. I mean, that projected 15,000 more people was not just 15,000 people arriving on the island. This was creating the economic conditions for the island's sustainability and growth into the future. I think we have to temper that, of course, with the ability of us to maintain that infrastructure, to maintain those services, to continue to develop. Of course we do, and of course we need to have that stability in the economy and could see clearly that we've got the growth. And it is challenging out there, and I would take no bones about it. But we have 1,300 more people in jobs. We've got more people coming to the island, and I got lots of circumstantial evidence from professionals on the island and estate agents that they are getting that level of inquiry, and tax professionals will tell you they're dealing with multiple inquiries from individuals looking to relocate here. But the bottom line, Andy, is that actually when you analyse the figures and the numbers, we are not much further ahead than where we were in 2011. We have had a climb back from that position in 2016. We are successfully doing that. Our economy is growing in terms of projected forecasts from those looking at us from externally, but also we can see that the income tax levels are increasing with the Treasury as well. You know, we have got issues, of course we have, but we've also got plenty of opportunities, and there's some really good evidence that the indicators are all moving in the right direction.
Thanks for being with us today, Chief Minister. Appreciate it, and we'll do it just before Christmas, hopefully.
I look forward to it, Andy.
If the bugs stay away. Chief Minister Alfred Cannan's been with us. By the way, next week on Cannan MHK, Rob Callister will be on Mannin Line, and shortly after that, Cabinet Office Minister David Ashford as well. That's it. Back with an open line on Monday, thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today. Have a great weekend.
WINT